the word antichrist, I've heard it explained recently from a Christian priest that actually it means the, it's not necessarily opposite of Christ, but rather another Christ. That's really the word there. Is that what you've seen too, or how do you interpret that term, antichrist? What does it
Well,
mean?
I kind of understand it as the way that I understand it. It's almost like it's part of the Christian story. It's like it's coming to, you could call it like the end of the Christian story, where there can't be an other Christ really. And so it's like a parody. It's like a bad copy, but also like an upside down version. One of the things that I talk about is that the normal model of a world will have at the edge of its world an upside down, and it's like an inevitable aspect of reality, which is any identity has a certain coherence. And the last aspect of that coherence is like its opposite, because its opposite participates in its existence, right? It participates in defining what it is. And so on the edge of the Greek world, you had Amazons, where there was like an upside down world with women in charge and women warriors, and which was showing them a kind of upside down to their identity. But what it does, it also consolidates your identity. So in traditional worlds, you had carnivals on the edge of the town, where you would have freak shows and you'd have people doing upside down things and turning and flipping up in the air and doing all these kind of turning things. So the same thing with like the idea of carnival feasts. So like Purim, for example, at the end of the Jewish year, or at the end of the medieval Christian year, you'd have the Feast of Fools, or you'd have even the Feast of the Ass, which was like this donkey feast where they would bring the donkey up to the altar. So you'd have these upside down celebrations that show you the upside down, so then you can understand what normalcy is.
Right.
And one of my contentions has been that we're in a carnival world. Like
Right.
all of Western history is basically entering into a carnival space.
And that reminds me of the Saturnalia festival, the
Yep.
Romans did, where they would choose someone to represent a king, a mock king. And, the Christian writers said that there was actually some human sacrifice at the origins of the Saturnalia festival. Of course, the more contemporary historians like, oh, no, of course not. It was just animals. They're very sophisticated people. They would never do human sacrifice. You look at it and it looks like, you're offering up you would take a young man and adorn him in kingly attire, and then parade him around and sacrifice him to the god of Saturn for the blessings of the new harvest, and so forth, the next seasonal pattern, because that was the darkest day of the year, right? The time that they would celebrate, December 26th, I think, right? Is that the
Yeah,
day?
well, the solstice is usually around December 22nd, but it doesn't matter. It's like
Right.
it's the same period,
Right.
same as Christmas too. It's a solstice celebration. So
And Gerard says that those carnivals and those festivals were a marked out time in which you could the ancient societies would let loose, so as to demonstrate this is what undifferentiation looks like. This is what happens when we get rid of taboos. This is what happens when we get rid of boundaries of differentiation.
yeah,
If you're putting on a mask, you don't know if you're dancing with the mayor's wife or the peasant girl. If you're sharing a feast, somebody brought Lunchables, the other guy brought lamb roast, and they all get to eat from the same table.
yeah,
That would cause strife if you did that every day. You know what I mean? Wait a second, and then orgies and all these things, this intermingling of identity into this kind of undifferentiated chaos is meant for a certain time, and then they would culminate that with a sacrifice to remind people, okay, so you had your fun, and guess what happens when we go wild? We have to sacrifice a shared, collective offering to appease the stirred up desires that we attribute to be gods, right? And so that's what you see those festivals for. But you're right. Now we live in a world in which carnival has become the normative standard. It's not a marked out time. It is the default time,
yeah.